Okay, so now I have applied equalization to every audio track in the session. And as I mentioned before, my EQ curves are not like crazy wild curves. They're just designed to help the instruments lock in together and all the tracks be heard. Now I'm going to go back and add compression. You should also keep in mind that every time you change something major like this, like you add EQ, you add compression, you're going to need to go back and rebalance your faders. It might seem like a long process, but that's just what mixing is. So let's go back to the drums here, and I'm going to start with the kick drum. And let's see if we can apply compression to make the kick nice, tight, and punchy. All right, and I'm going to add, let's go for the Dyne 3 compressor limiter. I'm going to set a short attack time because it's a drum, and maybe a kind of a quick release time. And then we'll play with this threshold. For now, the 3-to-1 ratio is fine. So that threshold is way too low because I'm getting too much compression. All right. Might want to lower my ratio now. Let's try 2.5 to 1, 2.5. Now on the loudest hits, we're getting about 6 decibels of gain reduction. So I'm going to increase the signal, the makeup gain, by 6 decibels. And now you can hear it's got a lot of body to it. Let's bypass and unbypass. And I'm going to lower my release time. And the reason I lowered my release time is because I heard kind of this ringing tone that I did not necessarily want on the back of the kick hits. Like right after the kick hit, there was a ringing tone. So by shortening my release time, the compressor lets go faster. All right, that's pretty punchy. Next, I'm going to move to the snares and do the exact same thing. Let's get the Dyne 3 compressor limiter. And this is the top of the snare. So again, it's a drum, short attack time. It rings a little bit more, so we'll have kind of a longer release time. Maybe a 2-to-1 ratio. Let's try that. Basically anything between 2-to-1 and 5-to-1 is a good starting ratio, and you just kind of use your ears from there. Now this threshold is way too low. I'm getting like 10 decibels of gain reduction. Really squashing the snare too much. And now we're getting about 4. That's good. Let's make up gain, 4. Kind of a little weaker, a little flabbier. And that's pretty good. So now I'm going to continue to do this with all of the drums, and I'm going to add compression on the bass and the organ and every audio track on here. And even though the instruments are different, the goal is the same. The goal is to make each track sort of jump out on the mix and be clear and be tight and punchy and not be loose and flabby. And that is the best way I have to describe the process. It does take practice. So if you're a little lost, don't worry. The more you practice, the better you'll get, the more you'll understand it. But keep in mind, for each track, you're looking for 3 to 6 decibels of gain reduction. Match that with the makeup gain. And if it's a fast sound, have a fast attack and fast release. If it's a slower sound like bass or organ or vocals, have a slower attack and a slower release. The ratio, you can stick to 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. And the threshold is basically your primary control for controlling when that compression is applied.